Good morning. I'm Councillor Diane Donaldson. I'll be chairing this hearing of the Subcommittee B of the Licensing and Public Protection Committee of Birmingham City Council. Before we start, can you all please mute your microphones for the moment in order to improve the sound quality whilst I outline the procedure. Can you also please turn off your cameras with the exception of the committee members, unless you are the person speaking. This is to reduce bandwidth. Committee members will have their cameras switched on throughout the hearing. Could everyone attending today's meeting please put their mobile phones on silent and ensure they are situated in a room or environment which is free from distractions or any unnecessary noise emanating from radios, TVs, etc. Thank you for that. I'm speaking slowly and clearly so everyone can follow. It is vitally important, for what I hope are obvious reasons, that those attending the meeting and making representations are able to hear me and my members of my subcommittee and officers. Any distractions brought to my attention could result in the meeting being suspended temporarily or to another date and time under the regulations for these types of meetings. I also confirm this is a public meeting and therefore is being live streamed on the City Council's website in order that the general public can view it. Advise that this is a public meeting. It will be webcast for live or subsequent broadcast via the Council's meeting YouTube site via the link in the agenda, and that members of the press public may record and take photographs except where there are confidential or exempt items. Members are reminded they must declare all relevant pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests arising from any business to be discussed at this meeting. If a disclosable pecuniary interest is declared, a member must not speak or take part in that agenda item. Any declarations will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. We've received no apologies for today's meeting. Can members, having read, can you confirm and sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of August 2021 at 10:00 hours?
Agreed.
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 Thank you. Can I welcome you to this hearing for the application in respect of transfer of premises licence and variation of designated premises supervisor for Maxi Food, 8 Wood End Road, Erdington, Birmingham, B24 8AD. I'll begin with some introductions. As stated previously, I'm Councillor Diane Donaldson and I'm chairing this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. With me are other members of the subcommittee, Councillors Mike Sharp and Adam Hicks. Also present in this meeting are the following officers: Licensing Officer David Kennedy.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning. Committee Manager, Meeting Manager Louisa Nesbitt.
Good morning.
Good morning. Committee Lawyer Joanne Swampillai.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning. Could I ask all parties to identify themselves, please? Firstly, the applicant, who I don't believe we have in attendance. Is that correct?
Yeah, Chair. Just to confirm, the applicant and their agent have been given formal notification of the hearing and sent invites to the hearing, to the Teams meeting, but we've had no response from the applicant. In the formal notification, they were advised that if they didn't attend, then the matters could be considered in their absence. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, David. Right, so the hearing will be heard in their absence, so we'll proceed without them. Next, those making representations. West Midlands Police.
Morning, Chair. Khurram Taj here of Birmingham Central Licensing Team.
Morning, Khurram. And at this point, could I ask if any persons making representations wishes to withdraw their representations at this stage of the hearing?
No, Chair.
Thank you. I will assume that all parties have read and understood the Licensing Committee's procedural rules sent out with the notice of today's hearing. Please note that given the nature of today's proceedings, I may at my discretion amend the procedural rules to reflect the fact that this meeting is taking place online, but wish to assure you that all such amendments will not impact the parties' right to a fair hearing. We'll be using the chat function in Microsoft Teams to communicate. One of the icons on your toolbar is a speech bubble. Click the speech bubble to go into chat. If you do not have access to the chat function for any reason, please use the raise a hand function to indicate you wish to speak. That button is usually fourth from the right on the toolbar. You can, of course, indicate verbally that you wish to speak at the appropriate time. Can you all confirm that you have access to the chat facility by typing your own name now? Officers will also type their job title. The meeting will not proceed until you have all done so. Thank you. I believe everybody has done that. Please keep this chat column open for the entire duration of the meeting in order that everyone can follow the messages being posted in the chat. If any participant has dialed in on an audio telephone rather than Microsoft Teams, please speak now to confirm that you can hear and be heard. Yeah, I think we're all here. No one on the audio telephone. Thank you. With the exception of subcommittee members, please keep your camera off unless you're the person speaking. If there are any problems with bandwidth, which cause difficulties with the sound, I may, in my discretion, ask everyone to turn their cameras off in order that the meeting can proceed with everyone able to hear and be heard. Does anyone wish to make any preliminary points at this stage? If so, please indicate that you wish to raise a point by typing speak into the chat function or using the raise a hand function now. No, I'll proceed. Thank you. Now, I'll briefly outline the procedure which will be following at today's hearing. Firstly, the Licensing Officer, David Kennedy, will present the report. Then the applicant and their representative will be asked to present their case. We're asking if this could be kept to approximately 20 minutes. Then those making representations will be invited to make their case. Again, approximately 20 minutes will be allowed for this part of the hearing. Can I ask all parties to speak slowly and clearly as they possibly can, because the officers are taking notes by hand for the minutes. And the meeting is also being live streamed on the City Council's website. If at any time it is somebody else's turn to speak, please mute your microphone and use the chat function to communicate if necessary. Please note that members of the subcommittee will be able to ask questions at any stage, but will try to do so at the conclusion of each presentation. Cross-examination by the applicant and those making representations will not be permitted unless the members consider it appropriate. Where questions are raised by members of the subcommittee or those present, please signify this using the chat facility set out on the right-hand side of the screen you're viewing the meeting on. The meeting manager will alert me if I do not notice messages in the chat. I will determine verbally or in writing on the chat facility the order in which questions are dealt with. Additionally, you may also seek to notify a question or point verbally in the usual way at the appropriate point. So at any point in the meeting, if you wish to speak, please type the word "speak" into the chat function, and the meeting manager will ensure that we come to you at the appropriate point. If at any point you cannot hear or having problems with your internet connection, please use the chat facility to alert the meeting manager. The chair will then ask the person speaking to repeat what they have just said. It is therefore important that you use the chat function as soon as you are unable to hear the person speaking. It may well be that the problem is caused by people still having their microphones on or cameras on, which creates interference. So I will remind everyone to please mute your microphones and turn off your cameras when you are not the person speaking. Could I point out that occasionally it may be necessary for the subcommittee to take legal advice. At my discretion, I may ask all parties to wait in this meeting whilst members and the relevant officers withdraw to take legal advice using a separate meeting within Microsoft Teams. We will then return to this meeting and continue. Please note if at any time the live stream being broadcast on the City Council's website fails, I will ask you all to mute your microphones and cameras and to stop speaking until the live stream is restored. If at any time this meeting goes into private session, the meeting manager will pause the live stream once the private part of the meeting is over. I will ask the meeting manager to confirm that the live stream has resumed before we continue. At the conclusion of the hearing, I will invite all parties to make a brief closing submission. Can I stress that no decision will be taken until all the evidence has been heard? At the decision-making stage, the members and the relevant officers will withdraw from this meeting in order to determine the decision. They will go into a separate Microsoft Teams meeting. In the event that members need to clarify any point, you'll be telephoned by the meeting manager. The members will make their decision. Notification of the determination of the application will be sent out to all parties within 5 working days. I hope that's reasonably straightforward. So with that, can I ask the Licensing Officer, David Kennedy, to present the report, please, as slowly and clearly as you can, please.
Thank you, Chair. The 2 reports before the subcommittee this morning relate to applications submitted by Nabaz Hassani on the 17th of November 2021, which seek to simultaneously transfer the premises licence to himself and vary the designated premises supervisor to nominate himself as the DPS. As the applications sought to have immediate effect, since the time of the applications, Nabaz Hassani has been responsible for the provision of licensable activities at the premises and carrying out the role of a DPS, pending the determination of the applications by the subcommittee. A copy of the applications are attached as an appendix to each report. In line with the statutory requirements, the applications were served on West Midlands Police, who have subsequently given objection notices to the applications, which are also attached as an appendix to each report. A copy of the current premises licence is attached at Appendix 3 of each report. It should be noted that the premises licence to which the transfer and DPS variation applications relate was subject to a review hearing following an inspection of the premises by trading standards, when the applicant, Nabaz Hassani, was found to be in control of the premises and illicit/counterfeit products were found on the premises. A copy of the review hearing decision notice, which confirms that the premises licence was revoked, is attached at Appendix 4 of each report. When carrying out its licensing functions, a licensing authority must have regard to Birmingham City Council's statement of licensing policy and the guidance issued by the Secretary of State under Section 182 of the Act. When holding a hearing to consider objection notices under Section 44(5) and Section 39(3), a licensing authority is confined to consideration of the prevention of crime and disorder licensing objective within the Act. The options available to the committee today are to grant the applications or to refuse the applications. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions from members?
No, thanks, Chair.
No, thanks, Chair.
Thank you, councillors. Can those making representations please present their case now? So West Midlands Police.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
I'll begin. On November 18th, West Midlands Police objected the transfer of the premise licence and DPS nomination application for Maxi Food, the applicant being Mr. Nabaz Hassani. 6 weeks prior to receiving this application on October 11th, 2021, Training Standards and West Midlands Police both visited the premises. This visit led to the seizure of 514 packs of illicit cigarettes and 32 bottles of non-duty vodka from the premises. The premises licence was scheduled for a full hearing on Tuesday, 30th November. The review was led by Birmingham Training Standards and supported by West Midlands Police. The resulting decision, as you've just heard, was the decision of the hearing was led to the licence being revoked. The premises licence holder and designated premise supervisor at the time of the visit shows as Mr. Farhad Razai, and the review hearing was against this named individual for their failings to promote the licensing objectives. During the original visit to the premises, it became clear that Mr. Farhad Razai is no longer or ever was involved with the day-to-day running of the shop, and further validated by them failing to attend the review hearing or have any representatives at the hearing. Upon entering the premises in October, there was a lone male staff worker who claimed he was new there and would call the boss. The boss was identified as Mr. Nabaz Hassani, the applicant wishing to be named as a new premise license holder and DPS. He turned up a short while later and identified himself as the license holder and stated he had a personal license. Mr. Hassani was not able to contact the named license holder upon request, stating he had owned the premises for several months, again highlighting that Mr. Farhad was not involved in these premises or actively promoting the licensing objectives at the time we attended. He did, however, get his licensing agent on the phone. The licensing agent explained Mr. Hassani did not currently hold a personal license, and it was about to be issued by Dudley Council. The licensing agent also told me that he had informed Mr. Hassani he was not allowed to sell alcohol until he was issued the license and transferred the premises into his name. As the shop was currently trading, it was clear Mr. Hassani had ignored the advice given by his licensing agent. The shop is situated in Errington, which has a significantly higher than average unemployment rate, and the High Street area is responsible for around 5% of the violent crime recorded in the West Midlands area, with a known street drinking issue. Errington needs strong licence holders in place to tackle these issues and ensure the promotional licence objectives are met and do not add to the current detriment of the area. I'll talk briefly through what was found on that day while Mr. Nabaz was managing and controlling the premises. The premises had several bottles of 40% vodka on the counter, directly in view of any customers attending the shop, with a special offer sticker promoting these for sale at a discounted rate. None of these bottles had a duty paid stamp on them and therefore were not legal for the sale in the UK. There were additional bottles of vodka directly underneath the counter without a duty paid stamp. The correct taxes had not been paid and therefore could be offered at a much lower price than the recommended retail price. The low price, high strength alcohol would encourage and further exacerbate the street drinking issues that already ravages the street. There were also 2 open boxes of cigarettes on the counter. When questioned on these boxes, Mr. Hassani and the workers stated they were their own. A short while later, a male entered who, potentially intoxicated, requested a single cigarette and was holding change in his hand as if he knew the price of the single cigarette. Later on during the visit, the lone worker asked myself if the single sale of cigarettes was allowed or not. I explained it was not, and they stated they was not made aware of this prior. A short while later, the trading standards officer noticed a hidden compartment underneath the counter and believed more cigarettes were concealed within. Myself, a fellow police officer, and the trading standards officer all tried to gain access to this hatch area. At the time, we was unaware there was a magnetic lock on the other side, keeping it shut. We was all unable to open it after several attempts. The question was put to Mr. Hassani if he knew how to open that hatch, and he immediately stated yes, and at the first try, opened the hatch. Within the secret compartment was a vast majority of illicit cigarettes. No explanation was given for the cigarettes, and then Mr. Hassani refused to accept accountability for the cigarettes when trading standards requested a signature to confirm the seized items. Mr. Hassani had already signed for the illicit alcohol. There was a much larger quantity of illicit cigarettes in the compartment underneath the counter than legitimate cigarettes on display. This suggests their main source of business with tobacco is around the illicit products. The sheer amount of seized illicit goods shows the management of the premises has a carefree attitude towards trading illegally to consumers with total disregard for the licensing objectives. The large amount also shows the premises are willing to invest a significant amount of money into illegal activity, with the hope of further monetary gains at the expense of its customer base and local community. I'll leave it there. I won't go into too much detail. As I said, the review hearing's already taken place and the license has been revoked. I just wanted to make it clear Mr. Hassani was in control of the premises at the time, and this is what we found. Mr. Hassani has already demonstrated he is not a suitable license holder or DPS. Although the review hearing took place, had license revoked against Mr. Fahad, it's clear Mr. Hassani was the one in control of the business and involved in illegal trade practices. West Midlands Police see the only suitable resolution to this application in the interest of promoting the licensing objectives and preventing further crime and disorder is that this application be refused. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Hiram. As we have none of the applicants here, we'll go straight to closing submission. So, Hiram, if you'd like to make your closing submission.
Then we have the chance
Sorry,
to ask questions.
Oh, sorry.
I don't have a question to ask, but normally
sorry,
Benson Sharp.
Sorry, members, would you like to ask questions?
No, thanks, Chair.
No, okay, and Adam doesn't either. So yeah, we'll proceed to the closing submissions. Hiram.
Chair, nothing more to add. I think I've covered it. The applicant's not here, so there's no points to address of what they've said. Nothing further to add.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll now ask all parties to leave the Microsoft Teams meeting, and the members and the committee lawyer and the committee manager will go into private session while the subcommittee makes its decision. You'll be notified of the decision of the subcommittee within 5 working days. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.